بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين ما بعد. The 16th author, the author rahimahullah, his pupil rahimahullah states: حدثنا أبو خيثمة قال حدثنا جرير عن الأعمش عن مالك بن الحارث عن أبي خالد شيخ من أصحاب عبد الله قال: بينما نحن في المسجد إذ جاء خباب بن الأرت فجلس فسكت فقال له القوم: إن أصحابك قد اجتمعوا إليك لتحدثهم أو لتأمرهم. قال: بما أمرهم فلعلي آمرهم بما لست فاعلا. The author is from Jarir, from A'mash, from Malik ibn al-Harith, from Abu Khalid, who was one of the companions of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, a narrator here. He reports that one day we were sitting in the masjid and Khabab ibn al-Arat, he came and he sat down from the Sahaba radiyallahu anhum. So the people, they said to him that the people sitting here in a circle, they've come, they've gathered, they've congregated, and they want you to speak to them, give them some type of benefit or some type of instruction. He replied to them, he says, what should I tell them? What can I tell them? Perhaps I may tell them something that I'm not doing myself. Perhaps I may tell them something that I myself am not doing. So this author shows us once more the importance and the obligation for the seeker of knowledge to practice what he or she preaches, to implement what you tell the people to do, to behave in a moral and spiritual manner, like that which you tell them and how you tell them to behave. And it's dangerous to be a speaker and not be an actor. It's dangerous to walk and not to talk. It's dangerous to preach and not practice. It's very dangerous. And it was something that was looked down upon by the Salaf as-Salih. It was something that was looked down upon by the pious predecessors. I thought we also benefit from in his humility and humbleness, for a righteous and pious man to always humble himself and scorn himself, unless it's something which you shouldn't scorn yourself, or an instance or a situation in which that's not the case, in which the maslahah, the benefit clearly outweighs the harm in doing that. And we know that there are dawabit, there are rules and regulations regarding when a person can and cannot praise himself, and when a person can show a type of pride. There are rules concerning that, and this is not the proper place to explain those rules. Khairan inshaAllah. This author also shows us how the Salaf radiyallahu anhum rahimahumullah were hungry for knowledge. They were hungry for ilm. They had a thirst and an appetite for knowledge, and they sought knowledge. Whereas it says, "Inna ashabaka qad ijtama'u ilayka," that these people have gathered and they've congregated for this purpose, to seek ilm. خير إن شاء الله. The next أثر: حدثنا أبو خيثمة قال حدثنا وكيع قال حدثنا أبو سنان سعيد بن سنان قال حدثني عنترة قال سمعت ابن عباس يقول: ما سلك رجل طريقا يلتمس فيه علما إلا سهل الله له به طريقا إلى الجنة. Narrated from Waki', from Abu Sinan, from Sa'id ibn Sinan, or Abu Sinan, who is Sa'id ibn Sinan, that's his name, who reported from Antara, who narrated from Ibn Abbas, who said, any man who travels and traverses a path in which he seeks knowledge, Allah Azza wa Jal will make that path easy for him to Jannah. Shaykh Al-Albani rahimahullah mentions in the footnotes that this is also a marfu' hadith collected by Imam Muslim from the Musnad of Abi Hurairah. And this goes to show us the virtue of seeking knowledge, the virtue and the excellence of seeking ilm of the deen. حدثنا أبو خيثمة قال حدثنا وكيع عن مسعر عن معنى بن عبد الرحمن أنه قال قال عبد الله إن استطعت أن تكون أنت المحدث فافعل. Narrated Waki' from Mis'ar, from Ma'an ibn Abd al-Rahman, who reported from Abdullah, who said, Abdullah bin Mas'ud radiyallahu anhu, if you have the ability to be the one who receives the knowledge, al-muhaddath, the one whom the hadith or the speech is being given to, then that is what you should do. that is what you should do. If you have the ability to be the one who's taking the ilm and not giving it, then that is what you should do. And perhaps Ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu, remember this athar, the importance of soaking up knowledge, learning more than speaking and teaching. Alright, having a higher ratio of you benefiting instead of the ratio being higher of you putting out benefit. Or perhaps he meant humility and avoiding speech when a person doesn't have to speak, and letting someone else speak and talk when there's no need for you to speak or for you to talk. And Allah Azza wa Jal surely knows best. Very important etiquettes of the seeker of knowledge, whatever the interpretation is. حدثنا أبو خيثمة قال حدثنا وكيع عن سفيان بن عيينة عن عمرو عن يحيى بن جعدة أنه قال كان ناس يأتون سلمان فيستمعون حديثه يقول وهذا خير لكم وشر لي. Abu Khaythama, he narrates from Waki' ibn al-Jarrah, from Sufyan ibn Uyayna, from Amr ibn Dinar, from Yahya ibn Ja'da, who said that there were people that went to Salman al-Farisi radiyallahu anhu, they went to him, فَيَسْتَمِعُونَ حَدِيثَهُ, and they would listen to him speak, they would listen to him talk. And Salman would say, هَذَا خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ, he says, this is good for you, شَرٌ لِي, but it's bad for me. It's good for you, but bad for me. And perhaps what Salman radiallahu anhu meant by this was, every time a person speaks or talks, a greater hujjah, more proof is established upon them. And they have a greater fear of hypocrisy, of them teaching and speaking and preaching, and more zakat being have to pay, or more zakat being now due. More zakat now is mandatory. Every time a person talks and gives and gives and gives, he has to implement it himself. Okay, and that the learner or the seeker of ilm always benefits from the scholar, the teacher, the master. They ride their backs all of the time. They benefit no matter what, whether they're implementing it, whether they're sincere or not. They're getting fayda. The learner is getting more, and the teacher oftentimes has more danger and more responsibility. Perhaps that's what Salman radiallahu ta'ala anhu meant by that statement. And as we have explained several times before, there is no absolute 1+1 formula here with these athar. Alright? And these athar are not to be abused. And one athar is not to be used against 10 other athar. Or 10 athar are not to be used against the Quran and the Sunnah with regards to the do's and the don'ts. Teaching knowledge, spreading knowledge, not teaching knowledge, hiding knowledge, hindering knowledge, etc. حدثنا عبد الله قال حدثنا خيثمة أو أبو خيثمة قال حدثنا سفيان بن عيينة عن يونس عن الحسن أنه قال إن كان الرجل ليجلس مع القوم فيرون أن به عين وما به من عين إنه لفقيه مسلم. Narrated Abdullah, who narrated from Abu Khaythama, who narrated from Sufyan ibn Uyayna, who narrated from Yunus, who narrated from Al-Hasan, Hasan al-Basri, rahimahullah. He said, in kana rajul, that in the past, or back in the day, or back in the days, in the old days, the old times, he says that a man would sit down with people. A man would sit down. فَيَرَوْنَ أَنَّ بِهِ عَيًّا, and the people would look at him and they would see that he was weak and incapable. They would think that he was ignorant, that he was a pauper or a peasant, somebody that doesn't have much. وَمَا بِهِ مِنْ عَيٍّ, Hassan says he has no weakness with him, no ignorance whatsoever. إِنَّهُ لَفَقِيهٌ Muslim. He was a faqih, a jurist, a person of fiqh, of knowledge, who's from the Muslims. So this athar shows us humility is the sign of true mastery. Humility is the sign of true mastery. And conceit and arrogance, and a person being pompous, is a sign of total lack of mastery. So the true master always masks and disguises his skills and his talents and his abilities and his mastery. He disguises and he masks it. And he only shows it and unveils it when it's absolutely necessary, at the critical time, when it's a must. But if that's not the case, then he's going to be humble and low to the earth. And this is one of the most important etiquettes of the seeker of knowledge, as we have explained, to humble yourself. And this is also one of the definitive points of when a person is a seeker of knowledge and the path in the beginning, and when a person starts to seek knowledge for some time and their knowledge starts to grow and they start to have a heap and an abundance of ilm, all right, and they start to progress and mature. A person goes from a white belt and now he's moving up. He's moving up now, and he's not a black belt yet, a brown belt, 3rd degree, but he's moving up now. He's not at the beginning anymore, and a person actually has some skills now, and actually has learned some things now. Okay, as we explained before earlier in the book, you cannot expect, nor is it correct and proper for a blue belt or a red belt to behave like a yellow belt. It just doesn't make sense. This person has been studying longer, practicing longer. There lies no doubt about that. So there's an etiquette, and the people of knowledge, they say that the sign of beneficial knowledge is that the more of it you get, the humbler you are. Next narration number 21. حدثنا أبو خيثمة قال حدثنا جرير عن عطاء بن السائب عن عبد الرحمن بن أبي ليلى أنه قال أدركت 20 و100 من أصحاب رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم من الأنصار ما منهم أحد يسأل عن شيء إلا ودع أن أخاه كفاه ولا يحدثه حديثا إلا ودع أن أخاه كفاه. Narrated Jarir from Ata ibn Sa'ib from Abdurrahman ibn Abi Layla, who said, I've met 120 companions of the Messenger of Allah alayhi salatu wasalam, all of them from the Ansar. Whenever one of them was asked a question, a fiqh ruling, a tafsir, a fatwa, none of them would be happy and be pleased for them to rush and give the answer. Instead, they would want for another companion to give the answer, and he would want for another companion, and they would try to pass it around and dodge it. And the same applies to giving a hadith. They would want and they would hope that their brother would take care of it for them. This athar, it goes to show us some of the previous athar, humility, and not rushing to fatwa, and not rushing to give the hadith, and not rushing to be the speaker, okay? And the danger and the severity of it and the gravity of it. And as we have explained before several times, we will explain again briefly, it does not mean that there's an excuse and a license for a person to be a coward, and for a person to be a scaredy cat, and a person to be afraid and insecure because of his insecurities and lack of self-esteem and lack of self-confidence, not to give knowledge, not to give da'wah, or not to speak, and not to help the people out. If you're on Hajj, you're walking with the people to go make tawaf, to go stone, and they ask you a question, is this permissible? Is this okay? My wife is this, my son is that. Well, you know, I don't want to answer your question, I'm sorry. I'd rather read the mushaf and make a dhikr by myself. The Salaf, when they would rush, they would run from answering questions. Imam Ahmed would run from the people. That's not proper. That's improper. That's incorrect. These are people that need knowledge. They need the answer. They are going to perform one of the pillars of Islam, and you are a student of the Islamic University of Medina, and you know the answer. And there's no one there that's smarter than you or older than you or more virtuous than you. You have the ability to give them the light, but you choose to keep them in darkness. And you say, Imam Ahmed would run from the old hags of Baghdad if they came to him and asked him about wudu. He wouldn't answer a question, Mas'al al-Khuffain. Imam Ahmed said, I studied the book of menstruation for 9 years until I understood it. And for me, Imam Malik wouldn't give a fatwa Medina until 1,000 fuqaha gave him ijazah. This is nonsense. But when it comes to talking about somebody, or refuting somebody, or warning from somebody, you'll find them on the front line. Don't take from such and such. Don't listen to him. Don't benefit from him. Don't give him the salams. Hajar, boycott him. And they might even pronounce the word properly. They may say hajar instead of hajar. And then when they are asked the basic question about wudu or mas'al al-khimar or something like this, they say, Abdurrahman ibn Abi Layla, he said 120 companions, he met all of them and none of them wanted to answer a question. So that's incorrect, that's improper, and that is a violation and abuse of these athar, as we have explained many times before. So there is a balance that one has to strike. Narration number 22, he says, حدثنا أبو خيثمة قال حدثنا سفيان عن الزهري قال كان عروة يتألف الناس على حديثه. حدثنا أبو خيثمة قال حدثنا سفيان قال عمرو لما قدم مكة يعني عروة قال ائتوني فتلقوا مني. This is narrated from Sufyan, from a Zuhri, and this Sufyan here is Ibn Uyayna, from the pupils of Zuhri. And we know in the sciences of Hadith, we get to know who the muhmal is, who the person in the chain of narration who's only mentioned by his or her first name. If it isn't min al-asma al-farida, if it isn't a unique name, but it's a name that several narrators have, then oftentimes we don't know exactly who it is. Muhammad, who's Muhammad? Who's Ahmed? Who's Yunus? Who's Sufyan? There are many Sufyans. So we know oftentimes who the Sufyan is specifically from the tabaqa. Okay? Who the teacher is in the isnad, and who the sheikh is in the isnad. So here in this isnad, his sheikh is Az-Zuhri. And we know that from the tullab of Az-Zuhri, from the tabaqat of the ashab Zuhri, is Ibn Uyayna. Alright? And oftentimes some narrators, they share the same tabaqa, so it becomes even more difficult. But this is one of the sciences of hadith in which you are given the ability to decode and demystify the names that are unknown and hidden to the average naked eye. So Sufyan narrates from Zuhri, who said that Urwa كان يتألف الناس على حديثه. He says that Urwa ibn Zuhayr from the Salaf, radiyallahu anhum, rahimahumullah, may Allah be pleased with them. Urwa ibn Zuhayr, it says here that he would يتألف الناس على حديثه, as if the translation would be, he would bring the people together upon his classes, his hadiths. يتألف الناس, he would bring the people, unite the people together like that. Alright? The next narration is from Sufyan, who narrated from Amr ibn Dinar, who says that when Urwa came to Mecca, he said to the people, he says, "Come to me, فَتَلَقَّوْ مِنِّي, and take knowledge from me." Come to me and take knowledge from me. These two athar clearly show us one thing, is that just as we have athar of the Salaf running from teaching and running from fatwa and talking about the danger of speaking, هَذَا خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ وَشَرٌ لِي, this is good for you, bad for me, we have other athar that prove the exact opposite, in which the Salaf as-Salih were eager to teach knowledge. They were eager to spread and to disseminate the Sunnah and to pass on the light that Allah Azza wa Jalla had given them via the companions. Alright, so it goes to show, once more, is that an etiquette of the seeker of knowledge is to be available to people, and is not to be stingy with his or her knowledge. Do not be a miser. Do not be tight-fisted with the ilm that Allah has given you. As long as there's nothing that prevents you from teaching and speaking from the Quran and from the authentic Sunnah, as long as there isn't a greater harm, then you speak and you teach and you disseminate the ilm, bi-idhnillahi subhanahu wa ta'ala. This athar also goes to show us how an alim, a scholar, oftentimes has to encourage people to learn from him. And it doesn't mean that it's arrogance or conceit or a person is full of himself, but it means that a person knows what Allah has given him. And it means that Allah Azza wa Jalla has given him a responsibility and amana to fulfill, and that you can't always have fake piety. And a person says and acts like he doesn't know anything, knowing that he does know. And everyone in the dunya knows that this person is learned, and a person acts like he knows nothing whatsoever all of the time. Maybe a time or instance or an occasion in which you may have to do that, as we said, to hide and mask your skill and your talent. But not all of the time. There has to come a time in which your humility is fake piety, and you're acting like you're more pious than what you actually are. Or it may be a lie. You say that you don't know anything and you don't have no knowledge whatsoever, and that's not the case. That's kitab. Or it may be an instance in which you're being ungrateful to Allah Azza wa Jalla. Allah blessed you to recite the Quran at a young age. Allah blessed you with a beautiful voice. Some of the brothers, they say, you sound like Kalbani when you recite the Quran. That's a talent. That's a blessing from Allah Azza wa Jalla. Who are you to say, I don't want to lead the salah, I don't want to give the khutbah, I don't know. Who are you to make that decision? Was it your decision to take the talent? It wasn't. Allah gave it to you without asking. So you should be grateful to Allah Azza wa Jalla for that. To be young and have the ability to speak, you should be grateful for that. So the concept is that this is from the etiquette of seeking knowledge as well. I don't know what the fanatical people of taqleed will say about this athar. it's da'if. No, that's not what it means. You're taking it out of context. What would they say about this athar? Those who say that you can't answer a question, don't give a class if you graduate from school. I've graduated Medina, but I'm going to go back to America. I'm going to work in a hospital. I'm going to go back to Toronto, and I'm going to work on the train station. I'm not going to teach because they're scholars. We have to give the rights to the scholars. We have to know those scholars. We have to be connected to the scholars. So you shouldn't have the people taken from us. What are they going to say about this athar? He says, take knowledge from me. So just as there is the east, there's always the west. Just as there's hot, there's cold. Just as the athar says don't teach, the other athar says to teach. We've explained this many times before. Narration number 24. حدثنا أبو خيثمة قال حدثنا معاوية بن عمرو قال حدثنا زائدة عن الأعمش عن مالك بن الحارث عن عبد الرحمن بن يزيد أنه قال قيل لعلقمة ألا تقعد أو ألا تقعد في المسجد فيجمع إليك وتسأل ونجلس معك فإنه يسأل من هو دونك فقال علقمة إني أكره أن يوطأ عقبي يقال هذا علقمة هذا علقمة. Narration number 24 states from Muawiyah ibn Amr, from Za'idah ibn Qudamah, from Al-A'mash, from Malik ibn Harith, from Abdurrahman ibn Yazid, who reported that one day it was said to Alqamah, Alqamah rahimahullah, he was asked, he says, won't you sit in the masjid and let people sit around you and let us sit around you, and then people can benefit from you because there are others who are far less than you, far less skilled than you are, far less talented than you are, who have circles of knowledge. So Alqamah rahimahullah, he said, Inni akrahu, he says, I'm not fond of this. I don't like for people to walk behind me. I don't like people to crowd over me like this and for people to say, this is Alqamah, this is Alqamah. In other words, he was humble and he scorned himself. He humbled himself. And he didn't want him to be puffed up and put on a scale, put on a pedestal that he thought he was undeserving and unbefitting of. Alqamah rahimahullah was from the most knowledgeable of the Salaf Salih, but he was humble. طيب, and the athar is understood in the light of the previous athar. حدثنا جرير والضرير عن الأعمشي عن أبي صالح عن أبي هريرة عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم فيما أري قال جرير أو قال فيما أرى قال جرير من سلك طريقا يبتغي فيه علما سهل الله له به طريقا إلى الجنة ومن أبطأ به عمله لم يسرع به نسبه. It says here, narrated from Jarir, from or also Ad-Dharir, the blind man. Shaykh Al-Bani rahimahullah ta'ala, he puts in the footnotes, Ad-Dharir huwa laqabu Muhammad ibn Khazim Abi Muawiyah. He says that it's a nickname of a narrator whose name was Muhammad ibn Khazim Abu Muawiyah. They called him Ad-Dharir, the blind one. And we know in the sciences of hadith, there are many, or there's a chapter which is called Al-Alqab, Al-Asma, Wal-Alqab, Wal-Kuna, names, nicknames, by names, in which is a separate field of study in which the narrator is known by a nickname or a by name. Abu Muhammad, Muhammad, Abu Ahmad, Abu Ahmad, Abu Aisha, Aisha, Ad-Dharir, Al-A'mash, Al-A'raj, all right, the gimpy-legged one, the blind one, the squinty-eyed one, Al-A'mash, yani one who has bad eyes, someone in our time that would need to wear thick glasses, with glasses with high medication, all right, they had different names, all right, for one reason or another. Some of those names were actual names that they were fond of, and other names they didn't necessarily like. But that's how they were known. And we know that there's detail among the ulama of Islam with regards to calling a Muslim by a nickname that the Muslim does or doesn't like. Certain names are haram, certain names aren't. Certain things is not necessarily ghiba, but the person is known by that. Allah knows best. It's narrated from Amash, from Abu Salih, from Abu Hurairah, radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, Jarir, or it says, Fima Ura, he says, I think and I believe, it's narrated from the Prophet, yani, that it's marfu' version and not mawquf. All right. It says, "He who travels or traverses a path, treads a path, in which he seeks knowledge, Allah Azza wa Jal will make it easy for him the path to paradise. And he, whoever is held back by his lineage and genealogy, won't be sped up by his," or it says, "Man abta bi amaluhu." He whose deeds are slow won't be expedited. They won't be sped up and hastened by their genealogy. We know this hadith is in Sahih Muslim, as we've said before. We've explained the entire hadith before in detail. And what's meant by here is the virtue of seeking knowledge, the sheer excellence of the knowledge seeker, and the danger of a person thinking that he's better because of his race or his tribe or his lineage. A major Islamic concept for a person to think that he's better than the next man because of where he comes from or his background, whether it's within one race or another race, one tribe, one clan, one family. For a person to think that he's better just because he's Japanese than a Korean. I'm better than you just because I'm from Japan and you're from Korea. You're inferior to me. For no other reason, just because of I come from the islands of Japan and you come from Korea. Or I'm Chinese and you're Vietnamese. I'm better than you. I'm from Pakistan and you're from India. I'm from Somalia and you're from Ethiopia or Eritrea or Djibouti. I come from the northern United States, from New York City, and you come from Baltimore, Maryland, or Virginia, or South Carolina. You're in the South, so I'm better than you. I come from this projects, and you come from another projects. Okay? I come from this family, you're from another family, so I'm better than you. So therefore, I don't have to work as hard, or I don't have to exert myself. This is the mentality of many human beings today, if not most of them. For whatever reason, black, white, yellow, whatever the reason is. Irish versus British. Okay? Okay, Scottish versus someone who comes from Wales, whatever the case may be. All right? This is Jahiliyyah, unfortunately. It's well known how the Italians look down upon Sicilians. Okay? And oftentimes how Sicilians look at themselves as being better than the Italians and the Romans, etc. So Jahiliyyah, and a person thinking that he or she is better than someone just because of their ancestry, their DNA, their blood, all right, their family background. And not only is this just total foolishness, okay, but the concept of how it has an adverse effect on the human being, and that's mentioned in this hadith. وَمَنْ أَبْطَأَ بِهِ عَمَلُهُ. I don't have to work as hard or do as much because I'm better. You're a peasant, you have to work. So oftentimes a person who feels that they're entitled, the right to be a leader, to be ahead, I don't have to work as hard. So the person who's looked down upon, who's scorned, oftentimes, not only is he more intelligent or he's physically stronger, but he often works harder. And he beats and surpasses the one who thinks that he's better than him. Okay? So we have to be mindful of this. We have to be mindful of this. Narration number 26. حدثنا أبو خيثمة زهير قال حدثنا سفيان بن عيينة عن عمرو عن يحيى بن جعدة أنه قال أراد عمر أن يكتب السنة ثم كتب في الناس من كان عنده شيء من ذلك فليمحه. It says here, narrated Abu Khaythama Zuhayr, the author, from Sufyan ibn Uyayna, from Amr, from Yahya ibn Ja'data, who said, once Umar radiallahu anhu wanted to write down the Sunnah. He wanted to record the hadiths. And then he wrote a letter addressing the people. Anyone who has hadiths, Sunnah that they've written down, then he or she should erase it. Then they should erase it. Do away with it. Shaykh Al-Albani rahimahullah ta'ala says in the footnotes, إسناده منقطع فإن يحيى بن جعدة لم يدرك عمر بن الخطاب فقد ذكره أنهم لم يدرك ابن مسعود وقد مات بعد عمر بنحو 10 سنين. Shaykh Al-Albani rahimahullah, he makes two comments here. The first pertains to the authenticity of the hadith or this athar, and the second pertains to the meaning and the fiqh of the athar. As far as the first comment, then he says, in this isnad is munqati', is broken, is severed, it's disconnected, discontinued. And that's because Yahya ibn Ja'dah did not live in the time of Umar ibn al-Khattab radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, i.e. the athar is da'if, is weak. As we have learned in al-Bayquniyah, and At-Tadhkira, and Nukhbat al-Fikr, and Taysir Mustalah al-Hadith, and other classes and lessons and lectures, that there are conditions for a narration to be acceptable. And from those conditions is ittisal al-sanad. The chain has to be connected or continued. And we said that that means the student taking from the master, the student hearing from the master, getting the books of the master, whatever way it was, that he took it from him directly. So therefore, if Yahya ibn Ja'da never met Umar, who did he get it from? Who did he hear it from? Another companion, another tabi'i, someone who's trustworthy, someone who's majhul, unknown, and who we don't know. So therefore it is rejected, as we have explained in detail. And this is a real life example of al-inqita'. So therefore he says that Yahya ibn Ja'da didn't meet Umar radiyallahu anhu. How do we know that he didn't meet Umar? Shaykh al-Albani rahimahullah, he says, and that's because the historians, the scholars of hadith and of tariq, they've mentioned that he didn't meet Ibn Mas'ud. He wasn't alive, he wasn't in the era of Ibn Mas'ud. And Ibn Mas'ud died 10 years after Umar. So if he did meet Ibn Mas'ud, who died 10 years after Umar's death, how could he meet Umar radiyallahu anhu? This goes to show you that the science of hadith tangible, and it's based off of ilm, science, and it's based off of history, and it's based off of common sense. Is that if he did meet him, then of course he did meet such and such. And then many other examples like this. The Shaykh Al-Albani rahimahullah says, وَعَلَمْ أَنَّهُ قَدْ كَانَ هُنَاكَ خِلَافٌ قَدِيمٌ بَيْنَ السَّلَفِ في كتابة الحديث النبوي فمنهم المانع ومنهم المبيح وستأتي في الكتاب آثار غير قليلة من النوعين ثم استقر الأمر على جواز الكتابة بل وجوبها لأمر النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم بها في غير ما حديث واحد كقوله اكتبوا لأبي شاه رواه البخاري أو أخرجه البخاري. The Shaykh rahimahullah says, no, for sure, is that in the past, among the early Salaf, there was difference of opinion with regards to writing down the Prophet's hadiths. Writing down the Prophet's hadiths. Some of them forbade it, and others allowed it. He says, and in the book there are going to be many athar that are going to come. They're going to speak about both views, both madhabs, both schools of thought. Those who say we should write down the hadiths, and those who say we shouldn't write down anything except the Quran. He says, then after this khilaf, it became a well-known position, it was well-known and it was established that it was permissible to write down the athar, rather it was obligatory. And the reason that this is the strongest view, and this was the dominant view, the view that dictated policy in the future forever, was the fact that the Prophet ﷺ told the people to write down the hadiths in several narrations. He commanded them to write down things. From them is the narration in which the Prophet ﷺ, he said, "Uktubu li Abi Shah." He says, write down hadiths, write down my sermon for this man, Abu Shah. We know Abu Shah came from Yemen. And the Prophet he said this during the pilgrimage. Alright? He asked this man Abu Shah, he says, please let me get this and take it back to my people. And the Prophet says, Uktubu. He says, write it down for him. And this hadith is in Sahih Bukhari. Shaykh Al-Albani rahimahullah ta'ala, he then says, وَمِنَ الْمَعْلُومِ أَنَ الْحَدِيث هُوَ الَّذِي تَوَلَّى بَيَانُ مَا أُجْمِنَ مِنَ الْقُرْآنِ. And it is well known that the hadith, it has the task of explaining and giving detail the unexplained and inexplicit things in the Quran. وَتَفْصِيلْ أَحْكَامِهِ, and the further elucidation of the rulings and the injunctions of the Quran. وَلَوْلَاهُ لَمْ نَسْتَطِيعْ هكذا لم نستطيع الصواب أو الجادة لم نستطع أن نعرف الصلاة والصيام وغيرهما من الأركان والعبادات على الوجه الذي أراده الله تبارك وتعالى. And he says, and it's well known that if it wasn't for the Sunnah, we would know the way to pray, how to fast, and all other types of works or worship and pillars of Islam, in the way in which Allah Azza wa Jalla truly intended. وَمَا لَا يَقُومُ الْوَاجِبُ إِلَّا بِهِ فَهُوَ وَاجِبٌ. He says, and if there's something which is obligatory, and the only way that we can fulfill this obligation is through another means, then that means now becomes obligatory as well. وَقَدْ ضَلَّ قَوْمٌ فِي هَذَا الزَّمَانِ زَعَمُوا إِسْتِغْنَاءَهُمْ عَنِ الْحَدِيثِ بِالْقُرْآنِ. And there are many people today that have went astray. horribly and terribly astray. And they claim, and they say, and they sell the product that we don't need hadiths. The Quran is more than enough. وهو القائل, even though Allah Azza wa Jal, He says in the Quran, وَأَنزَلْنَا إِلَيْكَ الذِّكْرَ لِتُبَيِّنَ لِلنَّاسِ مَا نُزِلَ إِلَيْهِمْ. Allah says, and we have sent down upon you the dhikr, O Muhammad, the remembrance, for you to explain to the people what has been sent down to them. فأخبر أن ثمة مبينا وهو القرآن ومبينا وهو الرسول عليه الصلاة والسلام وحديثه. So in this ayah, this verse, this Quranic verse, Allah clearly tells us and shows us is that there's something which has to be explained. And there is someone or something which is an explainer. The thing that has to be explained is the Quran, and the explainer is the Rasul and his hadiths. وقد أكد هذا قوله صلى الله عليه وسلم في الحديث الصحيح المشهور. And this meaning is further fortified in the well-known narration in which the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام says, ألا إني أوتيت القرآن ومثله معه. He says, certainly I've been given the Quran and the likes of the Quran with the Quran. I've been given the Quran ومثله, and its twin, its pair, its equal, something that is similar to it, along with the Quran. This commentary from Shaykh al-Albani, wallahi, is mashkur. We thank the Shaykh tremendously for this. It's beautiful speech, it's concise, powerful, right to the point, strong and clear about the importance of the Sunnah and the danger of a person dispensing with the Sunnah and the misguidance of those people who say that they don't need the Sunnah today. An entire lecture can be given just on this footnote. Before we stop here today, Walillah alhamd, we have explained this in detail as well in our series on the compilation of the Sunnah. We've explained it. We have several different versions of the compilation of the Sunnah. Those that we did in Toronto a few times, a few modules. The original recording, one of the first recordings on the Hadith Disciple channel, and other lectures as well. We've explained this ruling in detail, and that the correct ruling is that writing down hadiths was always permissible. That's the strongest view. And not to write them down is not necessarily a strong view at all. Not back then nor now. Allah Azza wa Jalla surely knows best. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen.